Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Mitchell Ringos. We start in Israel, where Hamas militants launched an unprecedented surprise attack early this morning. Thousands of rockets were launched from Gaza and dozens of fighters raided Israeli towns near the border. Israel declared it's at war and responded with airstrikes. Hundreds have been killed and injured, with terrorist forces taking hostages. Kevin Gallagher has more.
Thousands of missiles screamed towards Israel from Gaza this morning, hitting border towns, killing dozens of Israeli civilians and injuring hundreds of others.
This attack is having a horrific impact on Israeli civilians. Civilians must never be the target of attacks.
Hamas took credit for the surprise attack and the coordinated raid of border posts, quickly overwhelming Israeli defense forces, seizing military equipment. Some civilians were taken hostage by militants. Even Israeli soldiers were taken captive and driven through Gaza streets like trophies. The Israeli military mobilized a response, launching airstrikes, causing some buildings in Gaza to collapse, with Palestinians reporting at least 200 dead. After an emergency cabinet meeting, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared his country is at war. Our first objective, he says, is to clear out enemy forces that infiltrated our communities. The attacks sparked celebration in Iran, a close Hamas ally. But many other countries, including the US, France, and Canada, declared this a terrorist attack. In a tweet, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau condemned the attack and pledged support for Israel's right to defend itself. Global Affairs is aware of more than 1,900 Canadians in Israel and the Palestinian territories. There are currently no reports of Canadian casualties, but the embassy is urging people to take caution and limit their movements. Kevin Gallagher, CTV News, Ottawa.
Back in Thunder Bay, the Ontario Cadet Week programming saw local members take a trip to the Thunder Bay Military Museum today to learn about the military history of northwestern Ontario. Museum tour came after a cadet welcome breakfast, which celebrates the official start of the Ontario Cadet Week. The week aims to honor Army, Sea, and Air cadets across the province, as well as promote the cadet movement. The museum features a number of military artifacts, including uniforms, medals, and swords, and covers all branches of the Canadian military. We spoke to some cadets and asked them what they enjoyed most about the visit.
Probably seeing all the different sizes of artillery shells. That was pretty interesting, and as well how many uniforms there were.
I like seeing all the pictures of people. It was fun.
Part of the program for the cadets is to learn about military history. So it's fine learning about military history in a classroom, but when you come down firsthand to a military museum, you're able to see artifacts, look at them, and it's a good experience for them.
Over to Sault Ste. Marie now, where a mother of an autistic, nonverbal daughter remains upset with the local public school board, as last month the child was apparently left in a house for over 10 hours with her father, who had died. The mom says the daughter's school let her down. Details from Mike McDonald.
Sherry Surrett Stukenbrock and her ex-partner Jeff shared joint custody of their 8-year-old daughter Tilly. Stukenbrock says Tilly was at her father's home on the morning of September 15th when he died unexpectedly. When she attempted to call him late that day, unaware of what had happened, Tilly answered the phone.
And she just kept saying, "Daddy," and I was like, "Where's Daddy?" And she said, "Daddy," and then the phone went dead.
Police were called to conduct a welfare check, at which point Tilly's father was found deceased. Stukenbrock says Tilly is normally brought to H.M. Robbins School in a taxi. She says the driver noticed something was wrong but was unable to leave the cab as there were other children in the vehicle. She says the cab company notified the school.
The school was made aware that Tilly was in the window and something wasn't right and they needed to check on her, and nobody did. She was left with him for around 10 to 12 hours alone.
Stukenbrock says when Tilly didn't show up for class, the school called her father, but not her mother.
I've always gotten a phone call, Jeff and I both, when our kids weren't at school. And I never got one, so I just assumed she was at school all day. I had no idea nothing was wrong. Nobody called.
That is not that big of a deal for them to call When they don't get an answer from the first parent, the second parent, or the grandparent, or whoever, it's not that hard.
Stukenbrock says she doesn't want a similar situation happening to anyone else.
There are so many vulnerable kids like Tilly who don't know how to ask for help, who don't know when something's wrong, who don't know what to do in an emergency.
The Algoma District School Board says in order to maintain student confidentiality and privacy, they are unable to provide comment other than to say an investigation into the incident is ongoing. Mike McDonald, CTV News, Sault Ste. Marie.
The Watay power line is continuing to make headway through the remote First Nations of northwestern Ontario. The small First Nation of Wawa is the latest to celebrate their connection to the power grid. The milestone was marked with a blessing held here atop Anemki Waju rather than in the community, which is accessible only by float plane for most of the year. An airport isn't the only major infrastructure lacking in Wawa. Chief Anne Marie Beardy hopes that having reliable power will finally make it possible to start building.
There's no school in our community, so if we have the school, I think more people would move back. And if we have a nursing station, those are the main two things that we need in the community to get our people back in the community.
The community has struggled for many years because they don't have the capacity with their diesel generators. And now, we're able to bring them power where community can, have essential services.
The old diesel generator didn't have the capacity to reliably power the roughly 20 buildings in Wawa. Power outages were frequent and could be dangerous as the community lacks health care. Hopes are running high that the Watay line could mean the start of a new era for the remote First Nation. The Mitako Children's Fund has received a $25,000 grant from the Canada Post Community Foundation. The local charity supports the needs of children facing poverty in remote First Nations. The $25,000 check was presented recently in Thunder Bay. Mitaka's executive director, Emily Shandrook, says she's ecstatic to receive the funds, which will support the organization's after-school programs.
Right now, volleyball is huge in remote First Nation communities, so definitely a lot of volleyballs going up, some netting, some basketballs, and just some general play. So not everybody, wants to play an organized sport. They're looking for hula hoops, skipping ropes, just anything so kids can be kids and have fun.
Their program is outstanding when it comes to Indigenous families and the programs they offer. So they have a very diverse group of programs available to their partner communities. So it's really nice to see that this fund is going to go to their after-school programs.
The Canada Post Community Foundation is an arm's-length organization that raises money through the sale of special stamps. The funds go to support various children's charities nationwide. Well, if you're wondering why we have this pumpkin on the desk again, it's because Gundale is once again celebrating the coming of fall with its 29th annual Pumpkin Fest for the next 4 weekends. Visitors will have the chance to pick out pumpkins, try out different activities, and enjoy being outside with their family and friends. Jessica Clement reports.
For 29 years, visiting Gundale Farm during the fall has been a Thunder Bay family tradition. And with over 20 attractions, there's a lot to see and do at this year's Pumpkin Fest.
Most of the things are for young children. We have a pumpkin train, we have a pumpkin slingshot, we have pumpkins all over the place, and we have Canada's largest pumpkin catapult.
The festival takes place over 6 weekends every fall, and families from all over the region visit to appreciate the outdoors. Among the pumpkin-themed activities, there's also mazes, a boo barn, a number of farm animals to meet, and every hour, a pumpkin gets launched from a catapult.
One, full.
Gundale Farm owner Sue Gammond says the festival wouldn't be able to continue without their staff members, who are mostly kids from grade 5 up to high school.
They love to come put all together. They put all the pumpkins in place. They put out the signs. And then on the weekends when we're open, they're the hosts. And so that's one of the reasons why we keep it going, because the kids who work here and their families are very supportive. It's really neat to see kids that are school age, that how talented they are and how dedicated they are to helping and to working and pulling together as a team.
We spoke to some of the staff members and asked them what brings them back to the farm year after year.
Mainly because it's fun to work, and both my other brothers work here, and because also some of my friends work here too.
Well, the farm, it's a great family-friendly experience. There's a lot to do here, and there's food, animals, games, mazes. There's just so much to do, and it's really fun. There's a great community of workers here. We're all super close, and we're there for one another, and it's just super fun.
There's 4 weekends left to enjoy the magic of autumn at Gammondale Farm, and Gammon confirms they'll be open on Thanksgiving Monday. Tickets can be purchased online at gammondalefarm.com. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
And we're now joined by